For the best in paranormal talk radio, you're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary.
Well, this is Gary at Night Dreams Talk Radio. Well, the weather is just great here at the compound at the harbor. Well, hey, tonight, why don't you get yourself in that easy chair? Get yourself strapped in and get ready to go for a real ride. Now, pour yourself a nice cold drink. Not that one, the other type, like lemonade. And get ready for a ride about, well, ghost towns tonight and creepy ghost cemeteries. And what a better person would be than the guest we have tonight, who runs a sightseeing group. Okay, I know, sightseeing group, you're saying to yourself after I said that. Well, can I tell you the sightseeing group is not your normal sightseeing group. It's a sightseeing group, well, in the paranormal. He covers, well, cemeteries, ghost towns, and all that creepy stuff in the paranormal. Allan, are you here?
Yes, I am, Gary Tombstone.
Oh, yes. Don't even ask me how I got that name, Tombstone.
Very well.
But you can.
Go ahead, Gary.
I got to tell you, people have been wanting to know themselves, how did I get the name Tombstone? Well, I ride a motorcycle, and sometimes I get a little crazy, kind of doing the curves and all that stuff. I like going fast on the bike. And, somehow in the club, they started saying, hey, boy, if you keep riding like that, we're going to have to chip in and get you a tombstone. And then all of a sudden, well, without knowing who it came from, in the mail, I got this real nice motorcycle patch made out of leather and fancy, wording on it. It said Tombstone. And, well, hey, what can I say? I love going for the ride.
So Evel Knievel has a rival, huh?
Oh, yeah. But now I kind of cooled my jets down a little bit. Now I don't take the curves at 70, 80 anymore, on the back mountain roads and stuff. I kind of meld out and do it like 50 to 70.
You're still on the edge, my friend.
Okay, now, you run a sightseeing group, and you take people out, but you do it kind of like different than most sightseeing groups, because a lot of people, when they think sightseeing, they think they're going to be seeing, well, fancy buildings or movie star houses and stuff like that. Well, you kind of do a little bit different. So why don't you tell the people all about yourself, about your company, and, well, what sightseeing tours you offer?
Okay, well, I'm Allan Pacheco, and from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I run a tour company. Now, we do history tours during the day, but I also do ghost tours. And depending upon your interest, I try to, aim the tour towards those themes. And my tours, we go to some haunted areas. I show people where in the past we've had activity, be it on tours or during my investigations of X or Y spot. And Santa Fe, New Mexico is the oldest European city, oldest European capital in the USA. So with its history and all of the mayhem from the days of the conquistadors to Wild West to modern times, this is the most haunted city in the USA. And on my tours, I can't promise that we'll bump into anything paranormal, but at times we do. So we go to places that have had, for hundreds of years, activity, or just recently. And I always tell people, if you have ghostometers, and it doesn't matter if you have the state-of-the-art or if you have something on your iPhone, an app, bring it, because you just never can tell. And bring your questions, bring your cameras, and sometimes we do hit pay dirt. And if we don't hit pay dirt, you're going to have a tour for the ages, because I have written a zillion articles, books, done TV, film, radio on the paranormal, and in certain worlds, I am considered somewhat of an expert on aspects of the metaphysical. So that's a little bit about what I do here in Santa Fe. So if you're in town, and you want a tour, I'm your man. Now, my website is SantaFeGhostAndHistoryTours.com, and that is the king of the rabbit holes, because you're going to be getting information on my tours, on different ghosts, on the UFO activity here, my investigations, you name it.
Wow! So, starting out on a tour, what are your most famous tours that you offer? I mean, what are some of the awesome places a person could go see?
Well, okay. There's different locations, and of course, there's different tours. But for example, I try to some of the places that I aim for, and it depends upon the time we kick off it. There is the oldest house in the USA. Now, that's a historical landmark, but it's also haunted. There's also the La Posada Resort. It's world class, but this used to be the mansion of Abraham Staub. He was the Al Capone of the New Mexico Territory, and like Al Capone, the Rose Garden is littered with bodies. The ghost of Julius Staub, his wife, roams up, through the middle building, along with what I say is other energies. Who knows who else met their fate there at that Taj Mahal of New Mexico Territory. But getting back to the oldest house, now that street is just loaded with all kinds of energies. And this is, the oldest house is the story of the two curanderas, the two brujas, and their mayhem, murder story. Yeah, you go farther on down that street, you have other rich ghost stories. And mind you, these are not third-grade type of stories. All of what I have done, or where I take people, has been investigated. And of course, not only just by talking to old-timers from so many decades ago and interviewing them before they passed on, and these people went back to Wild West days, but also going into the archives and doing investigations, and then again going with, by myself and at times with some trusted metaphysicians, for lack of better words, to do investigations there. Now, mind you, as you well know, Tombstone, most metaphysicians are as phony as a $9 bill. But I do know some, and we have had some beyond belief experiences at some of these places. And then there's other places that we go to in the downtown area, areas where La Llorona has been supposedly been heard, cited. You name it. Go ahead there, Gary. I mean, I've given you a smorgasbord of topics there.
Oh, well, first thing I'm going to say, a $9 bill is probably in the near future going to be worth more than our $100 bill, because, I mean, it's going to be very rare. So, I mean, I would love one of those $9 bills, as phony as it may be. Now, do you have any, stories you can kind of tell us and the listeners, or tell me and the listeners, some of these scary things that you heard from these people?
Well, yeah. For example, let me also blend in some of the experiences that I've had there at some of these places. There is this one building, and it's called the oldest house in the USA. And the story is that there was these two curanderas, brujas. Translated, that's going to be voodoo women, witches. And this goes back to Spanish colonial days. And this area is just rich with mojo because back in 1680, there was a terrible battle that was fought in this area when the Spaniards and their Talascan allies were thrown out of Santa Fe. There was a massacre across the street at the oldest church in the USA. But getting back to these two witches, these sold charms, these sold candles to the church, And I go into deep detail on this on the tour, but to kind of abridge it,
Well,
this
hey,
one
wait a
man
minute.
was
Well, Alan, we're on a tour with you right now
okay
in the
all right.
paranormal. So just
All
remember
right.
that.
All righty. Well, there was a man by the name of Juan Espinosa, and he ended up getting murdered inside the oldest house, and by these two women, and his ghost or other energies do haunt this oldest house. Now, mind you, this is not a wooden beam type of building. This is adobe. These is mud dried bricks. And the foundation of this building goes back to 1100 AD. Now, I think it goes back much farther because if you go a little bit farther north, you're going to find other foundations of the Indians that date back to 600 AD. But anyway, this man was stabbed to death. And it goes in with the energy of this area because there was such a slaughter here, and it was hand-to-hand combat in 1680 that a tremendous amount of murders and mayhem since then have seemed to have been contaminated with that evil energy, and people do not die by lead or by bullet. They ended up dying hand-to-hand with blades. So this man, Juan Espinosa, his ghost has been seen in or around the oldest house. And of course, there's other people that say, well, no, maybe that's not the ghost of Juan Espinosa. That is the ghost of one of the curanderas, the voodoo women that were there. Now, this building, it's been, during Spanish colonial days, it was, in essence, what you would call an apartment flats. And then with the advent of the Americans coming down the Santa Fe Trail, it's been many different things, be it real estate offices, restaurant, curio shops, etc. And the hauntings got so bad that the previous renters of this building had to call in two Catholic padres back in 1984 to give it a quasi-exorcism blessing. And I talked to one of the padres, and he said, Alan, there was two distinct energies in there, very, very evil, very, very powerful, and there are minor energies underneath. So this kind of goes back into the Spanish black legend. And, of course, they call it the black legend because there's a lot of prejudice towards old Spanish history by the English, the French. This goes back to the 1700s. But Spanish history of the Southwest and of Mexico, and I say this on my tour, is probably the third best history you're going to get in the world. The first history that's the best is going to be the Nazi history because they took such good records of what they were doing, be it in Poland or Yugoslavia, the Ukraine, etc. And the second best that survives is what we have of the Roman histories, and they're very honest with their disasters and their victories.